Hello there, and welcome to KnowThyselfUniversity.net's book reviews. This particular segment is actually the intro that's going to go in front of all of the intro book reviews. So for this next 30 videos, you're going to see a lot of books that we're going to bring up, and I'm going to show you why it's helpful in my life and could be helpful in yours also. And in this intro, I wanted you just to know that this gives you an opportunity to get the books that we're going to be talking about and let you know why we're doing the books, but also to let the authors of these books know that once we do get into the in-depth portion of the book reviews, we're not going to just sit there and read page for page of your books. We want to basically just highlight your book and basically be a good commercial so that we can refer other people to these particular books and other books you may have. So we're not going to just sit here and just give away your whole book for free online. That's not what we're about. But we want to highlight certain books just so that people can get a taste of what we like to get into in order for us to know ourselves better. And to Know Thyself University, that is how you know the universe. And this particular book, I'll be quick, that for this month, we're going to be highlighting Shawn Stevenson's book, the Sleep Smarter book. It includes a 14-day plan for you to get restful sleep and why it's important. 21 essential strategies to sleep your way to better body, better health, and bigger success. Shawn Stevenson with the foreword by Sarah Godfrey. This is this month's highlighted book that we're going to be showcasing. So you're going to see this for all the other videos. Okay, sit tight, enjoy, please subscribe, share, and comment on other books that you might want us to review also. Peace. Now, I'm going to start, I feel like going through a stack of my health books. And the thing that I do a little differently than a lot of health gurus out there is I go pretty deep into the sciences, physics. A lot of people don't think of physics in terms of health, but when you start thinking of thermodynamics, that part of physics, you begin to understand the human body a little bit more when understanding how the body has to conserve heat and what it does with the manipulation of cells. And you start getting into active transport. We're talking about the actual movement of substances over the cell membrane. And, we start talking about physics. You know what I'm saying? Not only biology. See, sciences for us have been divided up. We got chemistry over here, got biology. Then some people have to go into biochemistry to be able to understand this part of the body. I understand why we divided, but it seems like people don't congregate it all back together at a certain point. They just go get a job in that one particular field. I'm a geneticist, and that's pretty much all I do, which makes sense, but then you don't interact with people in biology on a level, and then you don't interact with the psychologists because, that's apples and oranges. We really don't mix. But it's the same human body. And I'm saying that to go into the elements. Check that out. I always, when I'm talking about health to my initiates, I don't like using the word client. That's more like a slave, a person that is inefficient and has no brain. That's what the word client actually sort of means. So people that are part of the KnowThyselfUniversity.net paradigm, your initiates into my orders of knowledge. And of course I break them up into health, I break them up to language acquisition, and I break it up into wealth. Health, wealth, and language acquisition. This one will be in health because as a child reading books, one of the best science books I had was my aunt's physics book from college. That was my first deep science book that I read as a child, very young child. And I read it for years until the covers and pages started falling out. So when I was in high school, it was falling apart. But by that time, I was able to go into a a science class, and I already was reading about the theory of relativity, and I had to really ponder it and think about it. I was like, man, I wasn't really getting it. I was like, because I still to this point, how do you know that if you're observing something going at the speed of light, it'll be more of a straight line? And if you're looking at a person on a spaceship, I'm still remembering this book. There's a person on this spaceship, and you're looking at them, and if they drop a ball, that ball is signing or inscribing this long line, and it seems the ball to be hovering there. I can picture that because they're going so fast, you don't get a chance to see it. So from your relative perspective, it looks like a straight line, or it looks like the ball is just paused in space. But relative to the person on the spaceship, the ball is just falling the same way it will fall on Earth. I do get that. But they start getting to, as you start approaching the speed of light, time starts to change. And even reading the book, The Physics of Star Trek, when they talk about if a phaser comes out of your gun at light speed, but you're going at the speed of light, what do the phasers do? They not only may not be able to reach you, but because of your perspective, they might even bend at a certain point because it's going so fast, and because of the way that your ship is made to go at the speed of light, it has to warp space and time. So anybody shooting at you really shouldn't be able to shoot you, because that light will be bent away from your ship, because your ship is actually bending the space time and pulling your trajectory from point A to point B is actually just pulling actual space time closer to you, so that the distance is not that far, but you've actually traveled through space time at the speed of light, and you're traversing that time at this accelerated rate because you're bending space time. So the way that you even perceive the phasers are supposed to be invisible to you, because they're not able to reach your light. You're going faster than the speed of light, so you shouldn't even be able to see the phasers coming at you, even if they're chasing behind you at the speed of light. Now, if they were at the speed of light, the phasers would be going the same, it seems. But things I love thinking about those things. But certain things, from reading that book when I was younger, I wasn't able to get. I didn't even get the fact that first, if you drop, they had a picture of a boat, and somebody had a bowling ball, and they dropped it from a mast of a boat. And if you're on the boat, it looked like the ball is going straight down. And it took me a while, but I get it now. But I was a child. I was I was 8 years old when I first started reading it. And it was like a person on the land watching that boat go by. The ball seemed to have curved as it went down. And I just wasn't getting. I was like, if I see somebody drop something, it's going straight down. But I get where they're talking about relative to me standing still. And that ball is going to seem to curve relative to me, even though the person relative to the boat, and even just the term relative, that was the first time I was really getting into it. So I was able to understand relativism, where the average elementary student wasn't, you're not reading anything like that. But I had to really ponder it because I had to understand what I was reading. So they talked about a train at rest. And you're walking on the train 3 miles per hour, which is an average walk, nice little brisk walk. And that train going 40 miles an hour now in this direction. How fast are you going? You're adding 3 miles an hour to that. Because if you were just standing still, you'd be going at 40 miles an hour relative to the tracks and the ground outside. Relative to the train, you're going 3 miles an hour. That started making sense to me. And I'm bringing this up because I've come from, by the time I'm coming into health and training people, I can't be that regular trainer that just say, get on that treadmill, you got to work, there's this many calories in, this many calories out, so if you take in this many calories, you're going to lose weight. I was on a different level, because in that same book, it broke down what a calorie was, a unit of heat measurement. But when I talk about the elements, I have to tell you, when I went to St. Louis U and I took a astronomy class, and I actually had two classes at once. It was in the Kelly Auditorium And one was like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then another one was Tuesday and Thursday. One class was astronomy, and another one was meteorology. And it was fun for me because I like taking classes like that, even though a lot of people say you should divide them up. I like taking different languages. And in one semester, I'll take Japanese, French, and Spanish, which I did at UMSL, University of Missouri, St. Louis. But at this point, I'm like a freshman or a junior, a freshman or a sophomore at St. Louis U. I think it was my freshman year. But I had the astronomy class. And we were talking about the sun and different stars. And how you can look at the spectrum of light emitted from these stars, which our sun is a star, a small, medium-sized star that's on the smaller realm of it. And by looking at the spectrum, you can see what that star is composed of, because certain elements emit a certain spectrum of energy. And I'm talking about iron, helium, elements. And I'm like, because we don't think about that. We think of minerals, they're in the earth. You're not thinking, how is this thing that's a big ball of fire? But then you start taking these classes and they talk about big ball of gas. And we think of gas, we're thinking of farting, you know what I'm saying? We're thinking of, we see helium balloons, but we're not thinking of the sun and helium. And as I'm taking the class and I'm ruminating, pondering the idea of this dynamo, this entity that's electromagnetic, plasmatic, and is constantly converting the number one, that from what we can tell, the number one element, hydrogen, into helium. When a star is totally dead, it's converted all of the hydrogen that it could. You know what I'm saying? These things are furnaces, yes, but they're big dynamos converting hydrogen into helium. And then you start thinking about, as it's doing that, and from going back to our classes, which where I'm going back to books like this, you start understanding hydrogen, the most basic element, the most abundant, which makes sense because it's the basic one. You have a nucleus and one electron in the outermost part of it, of this being. And the nucleus doesn't even have the same proton and neutron. It's just a proton. But then you got something called, from what I can remember, there's a heavy helium. I don't know if it's isotope or whatever, but there's a heavy version of it, which I believe has a proton. See, I'm going off of memory right now. I remember this is a long time ago, but I believe it has a proton and a neutron, and maybe two neutrons. That don't make any sense, and two electrons in the outermost cloud, something like that. But I know there's a basic one, which is one we usually talk about, one proton in a nucleus, no neutron, yet it's very simple, and there's one electron that we used to say spinning around, but now we have to conceive of something else that sort of looks like a dumbbell now, where we used to remember that old picture of an atom. You got this nucleus proton ball and you got this neutron ball, and they stuck close together, and it's this spinning electron going across it. The electron cloud, we have a different perspective of it now because we're still learning because nobody's ever seen it. But I'm talking about this book along with my health books because that's when I first learned that these same elementals, the building blocks of us, when we say, oh, you need carbon, we're carbon based. And I love seeing pictures of these things. Oh, we're carbon based. And when I started studying health and taking my herbology courses, you're this much carbon, this much oxygen. oxygen right there. That's an element. How did we get these elements in us on Earth? When I learned in that class, and I was just sitting in the class, I think I was the only one really tripping off of it. Cause I was like, everybody taking notes, but I'm like, these elements come from the stars? And it was just clicking to me. I was like, the sun gets so hot and just keeps crushing these elements until it keeps making these different elements. And these different layers of the sun, sort of like an onion, by looking at the spectrograph, I believe it's called, that when you put a spectrometer, and I know it can be done on a subatomic level, the lady that was looking at emitting, men and women, but it was a lady in particular who they usually take her name out of the knowledge of when they were trying to find a double helix, but using spectrometers by emitting light on subatomic particles, and even off of how you get the Planck scale and stuff like that, emitting light off of metals and things like that, and looking at the spectrum emitted. This is a type of magnetic analysis of the spectrum of light bouncing off of different substances. By looking at the spectrograph, which is like when we look at the rainbow with visible light, what we call the aspect of light that we can see, that 5% of visible light. But when we see light broken down for us into a spectrum that we can see, and it emits the rainbow, Roy G. Bills, which are actually, I believe, is 6 colors instead of 7, but the magic of number 7, they add indigo in there. They're able to see what the stars are made of, which they can sort of see how old that star is, because stars start emitting more of different elements at a different part of their lifespan. I mean, it was a great class. But going back to this and why I use this book, and remember these reviews, I talk about not only the book, but its connection to me and how I feel like it's connected to you. So for people studying health, people tell me, I gotta get my carbs, but they never took a class on what a carbon hydrate, hydrogen, oxygen, H2O, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. That's water. And we forget that there's a whole lot of minerals that keep them together and stabilize. We always forget that. But these minerals are coming from here, man. From outer space. And then this, for me, it's sort of religious, even though a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters don't like me saying it. But it's like the analogy of Jesus. Some star had to give itself up for you to be here. Because we're made of that stuff left over by supernovas. That's where that stuff came from. So when God made us, he had to make us out of himself, herself, using the stuff that's already here. So some exploded star stuff, stardust, amalgamated and became the planets. And that's why we have stuff from stars in our bodies. I always start there when people want to study health. What should I eat? What type of exercise should I do? First, you got to understand this. You come from stars, man. Even no matter what religious aspect you're coming from, because in your Bible, it says God, and there was light. So let it be, let there be light and all this. Then when it came time for the male, let me make a little monkey that I can sit and laugh at. Spit. That's water. That's tough newt. That's the aspect of moisture. Use a little spit in the earth. That means the dust was already here. The earth that he used to make, other stuff with. And on the potter's wheel made this man. And the potter's wheel, of course, comes from carving in the pyramids of that. And so it still connects. It's still the same thing. So no matter what religious aspect you're coming from, it's still the same. You start people. It's not metaphysical, airy-fairy, and like something you shouldn't study. We're going to study this, man. Everything that your body needs is coming from so-called dead material. That's how you know we're material. We're chemical, biological, electrical, spiritual beings. These so-called inorganic elements make up organic beings. Carbon, we're carbon based. Nitrogen, we're going to talk about the nitrogen cycle. Oxygen, sulfur, phosphorus, silicon, chlorine. You know what I'm saying? These are things in the human body. Iodine. Things that you would die if you didn't have it. Even in trace amounts. And we're going to talk about trace amounts because if you don't have any, I believe it's boron, things that people don't even think about. You know what I'm saying? If you're lacking in it, you will die. Not just be sick. You will die. You won't be here on the planet. You gotta have it. So when people talk about different chemicals, like when I talk about the sea salt versus the table salt, and even like, you remember me with fillings and things like that, and they tell you that, oh, it's just a trace amount of mercury. From my understanding of elements, trace amounts, you can't get a scientist with the word trace, because even a trace amount is scientifically potent, because the absence of trace amounts of certain elements will kill you. So you're trying to tell me that a trace amount of something that I know is detrimental to human health and has never been synthesized in any way to be safe for the human body, mercury, which is an element. Don't try to get me with the word trace, because the average person, non-scientific, thinks trace is a small, minuscule, mundane amount that will do nothing. Nothing does nothing. If that makes sense. Everything does something. If you take it into your body, the things that we will call does so-called nothing stabilizes, like minerals. They maintain. I just looked at boron too. They maintain health. Certain things are catalysts for change in the body when you need your body to speed up or slow down. And other times when you are in perfect health, you have to put certain elements in, certain minerals, to maintain health. And certain other things that we classify as poison will deter health or imbalance health, will cause a state of ease, which is health, a dis-ease, which means not health. And that's all that health means. And I keep it, that's why I keep go back here. Before we get into breaking down the right foods to eat and what eating plan, when I teach people about health, especially at Know Thyself University, we get back to the elements. Well, I'm not going to go too deep. We're at the 21-minute mark. Let me read from the front cover, that is customary with these particular review intros. This glorious book is more than just a guide to the elements. It will fundamentally deepen your appreciation of the substances that make up our world. Oliver Sacks. Theodore Gray is the writer. Photographs by Theodore Gray and Nick Mann. On the cover, of course, we see carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, germanium, tin, antimony, tellurium, iodine, xenon, polonium, astatine, radon. I'm reading on the back now. Theodore Gray is passionate about the periodic table, and his collection of elements rivals that of many museums. With his characteristic wit and erudition, and above all with gorgeous photographs, he gives intriguing examples, ranging from commonplace to quirky, of each element's unique properties and uses. And I love that. I'm a super geekazoid for things like that. Imhotep, not geekazoid, but you know the term geekazoid. See, I want to see what it looks like. I'm a visual person. It's easier for me to memorize the elements when I can see a picture of it. I like to see a picture of it and see it in use. I like to know what's in it. You know, like the one is that Americunium or whatever is in the smoke detectors. I like to see. I want to tell me what it's used for. Tell me some little tidbit that I can use as a memory clue. That's what I like. This glorious book is more than just a guide to the elements. It will fundamentally deepen your appreciation of the substances that make up our world. And of course, the same is true like with all the books we do. We're not going to show you every single page because we want you to go get this book. I love books like this. This is a must-have. This is something that your child can be like me. Growing up, reading books like this at a very early age. Why come this can't be their first picture book? Why not? I like hearing about children graduating from college at the age of 14. I don't have a problem with it. Theodore Gray is an avid collector and photographer of elements. In addition to being a first-rate popular science writer, he has assembled an exquisite book of the elements, which will appeal to everybody with an interest in chemistry and science in general. The writing is clear, engaging, and authoritative. I recommend it highly. This is Eric Seri, author of The Periodic Table, Its Story, and Its Significance. Loving it. Haven't even opened it yet. I either got this from a garage sale, which we love garage sales, especially if there's a teacher or something that was having it, or I ripped it from my ex because she's a teacher. Either way, it's good. It's in my possession where it needs to be. I love this book. This is literally the most colorful account of the chemical elements that I've ever read. It combines the key data about every element with lighthearted text that makes it a pleasure to read. Theodore Gray is to be congratulated on producing a masterpiece of popular science. This is John Emsley, author of Nature's Building Blocks, an A to Z guide of the elements, to the elements. And I think I've seen that book before too. This is the element book that in style and content outshines all element books. See, who's your man? Who gets you to the best books to go through, especially ones you might not even thought of, and those who already, like myself, have an affinity for these type of books. You can appreciate it. And even if you already know this book, we're going to have fun. Subscribe, comment, and this is what we're going to be talking about. We can go back to talking about street brawls and girl fights, pulling weaves out and panties and tetas showing and stuff like that. There's time for that much later. Twerk videos. This is the real stuff you're supposed to be on 99% of the time. You leave the 1% for the crap, if you're going to indulge in it at all. This is the element book that in style and content outshines all element books. The photographs are fantastic in their mod layout on black. And the accompanying short text and a few choice words, Gray sketches utility, delves into history, and isn't afraid to make sharp comments about the world. My reaction: elemental delight. That's from Ronald Hoffman, writer and winner of the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. Heavy hitters, man. That's what we're about here. This is KnowThyselfUniversity.net, only bringing you the best of the best of the best of the best. So get that book, go buy it, go to the library. We're going to dig deep into it. We're going to chat it up about each one of these books, and we're going to have so much fun. It's been Professor Lorenzo McCoy, over and out. See you soon. Well, thanks again for joining us today at KnowThyselfUniversity.net's online school. Hopefully this book review, or this intro to the book review, wet your whistle a little bit and gave you an insight of what we deal with when we deal with a lot of these books, and show the significance that a lot of these books and what reading really does is very, very detrimental to your health if you're not reading books these days. But please subscribe, share, and get these books so that we can talk further once we get deeper into these books. Once again, this has been Lorenzo McCoy. Share, subscribe, comment, and let everybody know this is the place to be for reading books. Thank you.